Now, I'm keen to ask the question, which everyone's asking, and they're hearing this subscription. So what is car subscription?
So think of car subscription as a no locked-in lease that includes your registration, maintenance, insurance, roadside assist, and generally peace of mind on the access to the mobility function. Right. When I say peace of mind, what we provide there is peace of mind around the residual value of the vehicle, peace of mind around the maintenance risk of the vehicle itself. So take, for example, if the gearbox blows up and you're out of warranty, you're actually paying for the access to the car itself rather than the actual vehicle. So we would swap one for one on the vehicle, and you continue to have the access there. For us, it works quite well because we can diversify that risk across our portfolio. So no dramas on that front.
So there's a question from me is, it's fairly new, and to get a good understanding, how does it actually work? Can you just explain some of the details of if I wanted to take out a subscription, what would I need to do?
Yeah. So for us, what we've built over the course of last year as well is a self-serve e-commerce platform. So it's as easy as jumping on our site, carbar.com.au. There's a wide range, and what we offer up is choice and selection of vehicles on the site. So as a consumer, you go through, shop for the right car that resonates to you, go through the application process. We'll ask for your driver's license, Medicare card, and your 3 months bank statement and pay slips, after which you'll pay an upfront fee, and then that application will be submitted to us. So our finance team will go through an affordability check to ensure that you can actually afford that vehicle. So once that's approved, we'll actually procure that vehicle and deliver it to your door. So think of it like ordering shoes online, and then you get it in a time frame.
So there's no actual test drive involved?
No test drive involved, and that has been quite explicit on our end. We wanted to make it a full digital experience, and I think we've been very successful in doing that. Probably one of the first platforms in Australia to deliver that experience.
So all I need to do to get a subscription, if I need a car, so instead of going down the traditional path of shopping online and going into a dealership, looking at a vehicle, test driving it, negotiating a price, going away, thinking about it, coming back and buying the vehicle, I can just go to your website, I click on what I like, I send you through my driver's license, Medicare, and some pay slips. Yep. And what's the sort of turnaround time for an answer on that?
Usually within 48 hours or so, we'll come back with an answer. We're trying to speed that up.
And then as far as the vehicle's concerned, I then go to pick it up from a location, or what's the process there?
Yeah, you can nominate for a delivery. So delivery is free of charge, 50-kilometer radius from our distribution center, so within the CBD itself, or you can nominate to pick it up from our sites.
So Dave, what's the difference between a subscription and a lease? What are the advantages or disadvantages?
So as I mentioned, in terms of the subscription side of things, you're actually paying for access to that vehicle itself, not the ownership of the vehicle. So when you take out a lease on a particular vehicle, say a finance lease, you're actually carrying the maintenance risk on that car. You're carrying the residual risk on that vehicle. So at the end of the term, if there's if there's a huge discrepancy between what you actually owe as your balloon payment, your final payment on that vehicle versus what you sell it for, then you'll have to stump up that gap in payments. Same thing goes with the maintenance risk side of things. If the engine blows up and it's out of warranty, or even if it's in warranty, it's getting fixed. The time that you're out of the car, you're still liable to be paying that finance payment for. However, for the subscription side, like I mentioned, you're paying for access to that mobility. So if your car is off the road, we will take it in, we will swap it one for one, and you'll continue utilizing another vehicle.
And what sort of vehicles are available to have on subscription? What would the range range?
Yeah, we predominantly most of the cars that you see online are used vehicles. We have a select few range of new vehicles as well. So they range from all sorts of passenger vehicles, from price range vehicles all the way through to prestige used vehicles as well. So from your Hyundais, Toyotas, all the way through to your BMWs or Mercedes. So the range is pretty wide-ranging, and that's explicit on our part to sort of cater to the needs of all the consumers.
So it'd be like small hatches?
Correct. Small hatches, compact SUV, all the way through to 7-seaters. There's a range of commercial use as well. So your Hiluxes, your Ford Rangers.
So, Dej, are you starting to see any particular trends coming through now with subscription in terms of buyers, or are there more younger buyers doing it or older buyers, or what sort of trends are you seeing?
So what we're seeing is the product resonates very well for young families. So our target segment sort of sits in between sort of your late 20s all the way to your mid 40s, and with a particular targeting option around young families. And the reason I say that is because with young families, as you know, in a car buying journey, the trigger points for car buying journey is life stage changes, right? So when you get married, maybe you want a slightly bigger car. If your first kid comes along, probably look to move into a compact SUV, and so on. So that way, in terms of a subscription offering, what you're paying for is that access. And as your life needs change, so can the options around the vehicle itself change with you.
And how often do customers change their cars when they subscribe? How often do they, but also how often can they?
So when we first started out, I think the press coined the term Netflix for cars for us, because of the flexibility and because of the options around and ability to change in and out of cars. While it sounds fine and dandy and quite an attractive offer to be driving a sports car one week to a SUV the next. In reality, I think human beings are creatures of habit. We do like consistency in some ways. And what we are observing with our customer base is they do keep the cars for quite a while. So on average, I think for us, it's about 1.5 to 2 years lifetime in that vehicle itself. So they can do that. There is no minimum term for us in terms of the subscription. So it's at their election as to when they want to change the vehicle. It's
not always a subscription on a new car. It could be a subscription on a used car.
Yes. 90% of our vehicles are predominantly used. So used cars on subscription itself. There's a handful of vehicles that you can select from, which are brand new ones.
And what commitments do customers have to make? So I suppose that's the concern that everyone thinks, okay, well, what am I locked into? When I buy a car, I'm committed to the risk of the vehicle. I'm committed to a finance term. If I break it, there are penalties associated with it. So what are the commitments required from a term and financials and the vehicle itself?
So when you go through our application process, with each car itself, there is an upfront fee against it. So the upfront fee is usually calculated by the capital value of the vehicle, a percentage of the capital value, and that's payable sort of like a deposit on the vehicle, right? That's non-refundable. From there, like I mentioned, you'll go through that affordability check, and then pretty much we'll deliver that vehicle to you. The ongoing obligation on the vehicles is pretty much the weekly rate as what we've stated out on the site itself. So, example, if it's a BMW 3 Series that costs you $220 per week, then that's calculated against the capital value, the full capital value of that vehicle to derive the subscription rate. So then what happens is, as a consumer, you'll just be paying that subscription rate. So everything is bundled into that price. We keep it nice and simple for them, and there's nothing that's additional to that. So you know exactly what you're paying for at the end of the day.
And if your circumstances change and you want to end the subscription early, are there penalties?
No, there's no penalties. All we ask for is a 2 weeks notice period. And then after that, you can hand back the vehicle from there.
There's a similar way to taking out a finance loan?
So I think on a finance contract, it's probably a lot higher obligation in terms of both. If you think about it from a finance perspective, it's a full recourse loan that you'll be taking out. So there's credit checks that you have to go through. And there's a lot more documentation that you have to put through as well. At the end of it, you have to live out the term of the loan. And then if you decide to have an early termination, usually there will be penalties against that as well.
So just recapping, so they're keeping the car for basically 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah, correct. That's right.
So there's this perception out there that with subscription that, if it's a sunny day, I've got a subscription, so I'm just going to go swap for a convertible.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of dream and the perception out there. But then in reality, I think that doesn't really happen, because if you think about it, as a young family as well, you probably have car seats all installed in your car, and then after that you'll have to go swap in and out. It's sort of a hassle for them. We do have an upfront fee for each of the vehicles that is put out there. So that, in a way, also encourages people to stay in the vehicles a lot longer. So there's more consideration for the type of vehicle that they've chosen.
Because the question I was going to ask, which flows on from that, because with the hype that I've been hearing, and I may be hearing the wrong things, but subscription was, okay, well, I'm going to just have a subscription of X, and I can have a SUV or a medium pickup 4x4 for winter, and then I can switch that into a convertible for summer.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Not really for us. While we do have a handful of enthusiasts that is willing to pay for that, but the general population, subscriber base that is subscribing to our vehicles, don't actually do that. They tend to stick to the vehicles, and they're very comfortable in that way. While the option is available for you to do it, people can swap in and out, as you say, from a convertible to an SUV for winter and things. The general public tend to stay into the car itself. So
the creatures of habit still continue.
Yes, exactly.
So the idea over here of, wow, I can change whatever I want, but the reality is no, we get comfortable with our vehicle and we just continue with that and just pay this subscription, and we don't have any risk on that.
Yeah, 100%.
If I like the car, can I buy it?
The clear distinction is that we don't offer a sort of a rent to buy model. So at any point in time during a subscription, you're not. We make it explicit that you're not building equity in the vehicle. But at the end of the subscription, once you terminate that subscription, you can actually buy the vehicle, and that vehicle will be sort of a mark-to-market price that you can purchase out.
Because you said that you can have it delivered to your house.
Yes.
Can they arrange for someone to pick it up, or do they need to drop it off somewhere?
Yeah. So same thing goes. So we built this, as I mentioned, with the customer in mind. So with that convenience piece, with that full concierge offering. So whether we're delivering the vehicles to you or picking it up, we do it full service from that perspective. So if you terminate your subscription, we'll schedule a time by which our drivers will come and pick up the vehicles. So the same thing applies for servicing. So if you fall within that criteria of that 50-kilometer radius, then we'll try our best to schedule in that service. And then after that, drop a loan vehicle for you. We'll take the vehicle away for servicing. And then once it's done, we'll drop it back for you.
And they don't pay for the servicing?
No, they don't pay for the servicing. It's part of the subscription fee.
Really, it is a 100% mobility solution.
Exactly. So at the end of it is you are paying for the access. So when you're paying for the access, you should have access to that car. Our biggest competitor in the market is actually your primary car that's sitting in your driveway. So we're looking at changing the behavior of how you own that vehicle. How can we get you out of that vehicle and into a subscription? that is more of a service for you. So we ensure that all cars are in a roadworthy condition as well. So it goes by our strict rules of condition reports as we're dropping the vehicle off to you. So that ensures that there's efficiencies in terms of moving the cars up and down.
And does the same apply if I have an accident? So if I'm a subscriber, like service is looked after, but someone's crashed into me or I've really made a run into something or damaged the car, is the exact same process for service applicable to
it's the same process as well. So depending on whether you're at fault or not at fault in terms of the accident itself, then it will determine whether you're liable to pay for the access on the accident. However, same thing applies. If the car is off the road, then there's a loan replacement vehicle provided to you. So during this time, you will still pay for the access to that mobility option.
That's and the residual risk. And no residual risk whatsoever for the subscriber.
Yeah, no residual risk at all because, like I mentioned, it is paying for that access, paying for a component by which it's the maintenance, the registration, the depreciation, all into that weekly fee that we charge. So at the end of it, if you terminate that subscription, being that it's a no locked-in product, you just walk away just like that. Yeah, so all cost is fully transparent to the consumer.
So then you've got to go either find someone else to subscribe for that car,
yes,
or dispose of that in the used car market.
Exactly. Yeah. So our options around the vehicle itself is putting a second subscription live into it, or actually disposing of it at the right price. So depending on the age, depending on the condition of the vehicle, once it comes back, it will determine our decision as to what we do with them.
So you've got a very proactive remarketing department.
Yes, 100%.
There's in terms of tyre wear, how do you manage that? Because that must be quite difficult to manage in terms of, does a normal tyre wear get accounted for, but excess tyre wear the customer must pay for?
We go by the standard, the industry standard in terms of fair wear and tear policies. So what you'd expect with a car rental company or a leasing company on an operating lease, we employ the same sort of structure to that.
So that goes for tyre wear and also damage to the car. So if I've damaged the car, had a few extra car doors open on it and dented, etc., when I hand it back at the end of the subscription, the car gets assessed, and if there's any damage or unfair wear on tyres because I've been doing burnouts, therefore I would pay extra on the handback. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So before we drop off the vehicle at the customer side, we'll run through with them a vehicle condition report. So that will detail the condition by which we delivered the vehicle. So we'd expect some fair wear and tear after the car comes back. So if there's any wear and tear beyond that, then we'll look to recoup the cost from the customer.
I still hear people get confused with subscription and car share.
There's a lot of confusion around what is car share versus what is a subscription. So I think the distinction there is car share. You're actually sharing the vehicles with other people. So the likes of your go-gets, car next door, being peer-to-peer, as opposed to ours, which is you have private access to the mobility function. That is the key distinction there. While car share works quite well in the short term, it becomes pretty expensive if using that as a full option all the time.
Let's say you had a vehicle and it had a series of problems. If you own it, you've got to battle with the OEM to
exactly, and we know how it is. Even if there's warranty on the vehicle, just to claim it back, I think it's a difficult and long process. Let us deal with that problem because we can do it far more efficiently through our portfolio of cars and relationship.
And if you don't, you subscribe to a car and then you realise, I don't actually like driving this car because it has an uncomfortable seating position. I can change that car based on I give you 2 weeks' notice to swap to something else.
Yeah. So for us, we received the private ruling that allows us to push out a novated subscription product. So that's sort of in the mix. As a company director, and you're eligible for that novated side of things based on your salary, then you can actually utilize part of your pre-tax dollars to contribute as salary sacrifice for subscription as well. So
that's fantastic.
Sort of a game changer for us. Yeah.
So you can novate a subscription.
Correct. Exactly. That's
wow.
right. It opens up quite a lot of options, especially with corporates. So we're working with quite a few corporates in the background as well in regards to providing our subscription offering as an employee benefits for them. So we go in, it is an attractive offer and potential employee benefits, especially in this day and age. You're trying to increase your employee satisfaction. So this becomes an attractive offer for them as well. And then after that, look at options around offering them a subscription that's on a novated type product. Historically, as an employee, you probably had to be a full-time employee after your probationary period to be able to access novated leases and also take it out for a term. So the risk in doing that is if you were made redundant and say you were only a year into your novated lease out of a 3-year contract, then your residual risk on that vehicle is massive because the first year of depreciation on the new car is exorbitant on there. However, for a novated subscription type product, what I mentioned was you're actually paying for access to that vehicle, so you know exactly what you're paying for, and when you get out of the car, there is no more residual risk or anything like this ongoing payments.
And that's interesting because with normal novated, it's the FBT value. The purchase price is one of the big cost items.
Yes, correct.
So that wouldn't apply to a subscription.
It will be offset against the capital value of the vehicle as well.
Right.
Yeah. Our target subscription falls into 3 distinct buckets. Young families, which was what I touched upon. Secondly, will be the younger demographics, people that's come into the job market, or like you mentioned, just finishing up uni. I think because of the lack of savings and therefore the need for a car as a utility itself for them to get to and fro from work, that appeals quite a lot to them because of the way that we've structured it, because of what we're looking at in regards to total cost of ownership. They know exactly what they're planning for. So that gives them the ability to forward plan their finances and seeing that, if I'm renting this place to live, what sort of subscription offer can I take up as well, so that I can have that car as a utility to go to work as well. So the third bucket in itself is sort of your older couple, so sort of towards more progressed lifestyle. So they're looking at it more from a lifestyle perspective. They're looking at it and they don't mind paying for the convenience. So you'll see them subscribing to prestige used vehicles, but they don't want all the headaches. If the car breaks down, what am I going to do? I don't want to be spending my day at a workshop. If I want to sell the car, there's good options out there with car sales, doing private listings. But do I really want tire kickers coming around my place to test drive my car? It's a risk for me. So if I want to get out of the car and it's on subscription, I just hand it back and get something else. So I think that full sort of completes that solution for people.
If someone took a subscription and he kept it for 6-7 years, would his subscription amount come down over time? Or would it be better for him to hand it back and get a new subscription?
So we try and incentivize our subscribers to get out of the car sort of somewhere between 2 to 3 years. We're about to release sort of what we term as Car loyalty program. And what that means is we are looking to reward our customers or subscribers that have been with us for a longer period of time. So after a year that you've been with us, we'll look to step down your weekly subscription commitments based on that car. So example, if it was that BMW 3 Series that you were paying $220 per week for in the first year, then we'll look to step it down to say the next year you'll have to pay $200 instead. So it's kind of commensurating the depreciation that you would have experienced on a year older car. So in general, people often look at subscription and think that it's far more expensive than a lease if you were to compare it with a 3-year lease. And that is true if you were to calculate it based on $200 times 52 weeks times 3 years. However, subscription, you're not actually building equity on. So this loyalty program is looking to address that issue. So we're actually stepping down so that when you compare it with a 3-year lease, then it becomes very comparable, very competitive. But with that, giving the option around, a peace of mind on the warranty risk side of things, as well as the residual risk.
Could I come and do a subscription on a 5-year-old car? Do you cater in that sort of bracket?
So usually our subscription is cars that are below 5 years old. Less than 5 years old, and generally less than 100,000 kilometers. So, like I mentioned, warranty risk is a big issue, and also we want our subscribers to be in, roadworthy and safe cars. So beyond those age limits and beyond those mileage, then it's sort of we're sort of taking the additional risk that. We're putting our subscribers through. Yeah.
Des, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this information. It's been an eye-opener for me. I've learned a hell of a lot from your presentation. Thank you.